Cold case, 1979, Newcastle's missing teenage girls. An update on the suspect. During the last week, there have been new developments in relation to the suspect in the disappearances 40 years ago of Amanda Robinson and Robin Hickey. I can now reveal the identity of the suspect. He is 58-year-old Warren John McCorriston from the Gold Coast. In case I forget, all offences I mention in relation to him are only alleged at this stage. I am not aware of any offences for which he has ever been convicted. I will start with a brief update on the week's developments, then I will discuss what I have discovered about the life of Warren McCorriston. This will be in chronological order and include connections, if any, to the 6 girls I have mentioned in previous videos and their disappearances. On the 9th of January 2020, the Newcastle Herald quotes the following from a New South Wales Police Northern Region statement. A man is in custody in Queensland following an investigation into alleged historical sexual assaults and serious assault offences in the state's Lake Macquarie region. About 1:20 p.m. on Wednesday, a 58-year-old man was arrested by the Queensland Police Service in the presence of Strike Force Arapaima investigators. These charges are unrelated to the girls who disappeared, but are in relation to 3 other women. The alleged assaults were committed between December 1979 and July 1997, and on Thursday he was extradited to Tweed Heads in New South Wales and charged with 22 offences, including 6 counts of sexual assault, maliciously inflicting grievous bodily harm, attempting to choke or strangle, and indecently assaulting a female under 16. So who is Warren John McCorriston? From his quoted age in the media, 58 years old, it would appear that he was born in 1961. From the electoral roll and media reports, I have been able to confirm he was living with his parents in Livingston Street, Belmont, in 1980 and 1981. So it is probable that is where he was living in the late 1970s, if not even earlier. He was a student at Belmont High School and left school in 1978 when he was in Year 11. He began working at Rundle Tailoring in Newcastle. On July 17, 1978, Annie Tomanak and Joy Hodgins were last seen heading to the Ambassador nightclub. I have found nothing that appears to link Warren McCorriston to either of them. Is it possible he was at the Ambassador nightclub that night? You might argue he would never have been let in as he was only 16 or 17 at the time. But if you did think that, I would say you are wrong. In the year 2020, they ask you for photo ID if you even look under 25. But it wasn't until the 1990s that enforcing of age restrictions began to be taken seriously, at least here in Newcastle anyway. From my personal experience, I went into a pub when I was 16 with some friends who were the same age. This was in 1980. We bought alcoholic drinks and were never even questioned about our age. Once I can recall some of my friends were amused because they bought cases of beer from the local pub to take home after school, whilst they were still dressed in their school uniforms. I began to regularly go to pubs and clubs when I turned 18 and was never ever questioned about my age. I think the criteria that most pubs and clubs used back then was that if you looked like you might be over 18, they would generally assume you were. So it seems likely that Warren McCorriston's age would not have prevented him from getting into the Ambassador or any other pubs and clubs in the Newcastle area at that time. I would also point out that Annie Tominac herself was only 17. So it is possible Warren McCorriston was at the Ambassador nightclub on the night they disappeared. But even if he was, there would also have been hundreds of other people there as well. And there does not appear to be any evidence that he ever met or was involved in the disappearances of Annie Tominac and Joy Hodgins, though there would be difficulty linking either of their disappearances to anyone, as police lost the file on Joy Hodgins' disappearance, and Annie Tominac's disappearance was dismissed as being that of a runaway, with her file being closed with little investigation. It wasn't until 1998, 20 years later, that police became aware that they were known to each other and disappeared whilst together. The next mysterious disappearance was 5 or 6 months later, on December 30, 1978. Leanne Goodall disappeared after leaving the Star Hotel to catch a bus to her mother's home in Red Rose Avenue, Belmont. Warren McCorriston lived less than a 10-minute walk away in Livingston Street. I will also point out that in 1998, police were searching bushland for a possible grave that was sighted 20 years earlier in 1978 or 79. The area searched was also within a 10-minute walk of both Roseland Avenue and Livingston Street, though it seems no evidence was ever found. But it raises questions like, had Warren McCorriston also been in Newcastle that night? Was he at the Star Hotel? Perhaps he caught the same bus as Leanne Goodall. Unfortunately, it is not possible to look at evidence gathered at the time to consider these and many other questions. This is because police did not take her disappearance seriously and did not even open a file. So no investigation was undertaken, not even interviewing of any possible witnesses. I should add that I'm not saying he is responsible for Leanne Goodall's disappearance, but the links do raise questions and suspicions. Warren McCorriston turned 18 in 1979. 1979 was the first year relating to the recent charges laid against him, these being for alleged stalking as well as sexual and malicious assaults, including attempted choking or strangulation. 2 of the 3 alleged victims were from the Lake Macquarie area and were aged 17 and 19 at the time of the alleged offences. 1979 was also the year of 3 other mysterious disappearances that I have discussed in previous videos. The first of these was Robin Hickey. She was last seen on April 7, 1979 at a bus stop opposite her parents' home in Belmont North. She was waiting to catch a bus south to meet friends at a pub in Belmont. She was the same age as Warren McCorriston, also went to Belmont High School, and a friend of hers has confirmed that she would have known him. It was also known that she regularly hitchhiked. Could he have seen her waiting at the bus stop and recognised her? Did he offer her a lift? Did she accept, as she knew him and regularly hitchhiked anyway? Or perhaps she did catch the bus and he was on it. Similarly, I'm not saying he was responsible for Robin Hickey's disappearance, but there are clear links between the two. I'd also note that bus stops are becoming a known common factor in some of these disappearances. 2 weeks later, we have the disappearance of 14-year-old Amanda Robinson. She had caught a bus at Gateshead after attending a school dance and was last seen getting off a bus stop at Swansea at 12:20 a.m. on April 21. There is no known association between Amanda Robinson and Warren McCorriston. However, given the short time between the disappearances of Robin Hickey and Amanda Robinson, there is a strong likelihood the disappearances are connected. Once again, bus stops are another common factor. It was almost another 6 months before another mysterious disappearance of a teenage girl occurred. This was 16-year-old Amanda Zollis. She was last seen at a bus stop at Hamilton on October 12, 1979. A few hours later, she rang her father to say she was going to Queensland and was coming home to pick up some clothes before going. She didn't go home and was never seen or heard from again. I note that police have recently been seeking information on a green Torana around this time that may have been travelling between Newcastle and Queensland. Could someone have been suggesting to Amanda Zollis that they go to Queensland? There is no information to say this was Warren McCorriston or that he had any other connection to Amanda Zollis. Though what is interesting is that once again a bus stop seems to be a factor. I did not identify any similar mysterious disappearances from this time. However, approximately 6 months after Amanda Zollis's disappearance, on March 27, 1980, Warren John McCorriston picked up an 18-year-old female hitchhiker in Stewart Avenue at Hamilton South. He was also 18 years old at this time. She states that when she got in the car,
he just grabbed me and he said, "You got in with the wrong one this time, baby."
He denied he ever said that. He then drove her to a dirt track at Glenrock Lagoon. She says that he removed her clothes and tried to rape her. He says they began to kiss and fondle and they removed each other's clothes. Another car then drove up and she ran naked from his car towards it, yelling that she had been raped. Warren McCorriston claims that when she did that, he panicked and drove home with her clothes still in his car. The jury found him not guilty, which, as I have said in previous videos, does not mean he is innocent. It just means the jury does not believe there was enough evidence to convince them of his guilt beyond reasonable doubt. I'm not saying he is guilty of this offence, but it does not look good in association with the other accusations and current charges against him. Warren McCorriston's occupation was listed as shop assistant on the electoral roll in 1980. I assume this was in relation to his employment with Rundle Tailoring in Newcastle. In the late 1980s, he began living in the Gosford area. Last week's charges include sexually assaulting a woman in the Gosford area, maliciously inflicting bodily harm, and attempting to choke or strangle her. In the 1990s, he completed a bachelor's degree at Southern Cross University in Hospitality Management. He moved to Queensland and has had a highly successful career in the tourism and hospitality industry. From 2004 to 2005, he was food and beverage manager at Daydream Island Resort and Spa. In 2011, he returned as the resort manager. At the time, his most recent position was stated as being Body Corporate General Manager at Q1 on the Gold Coast, and that he had previously worked at other Gold Coast properties, including Mantra Legends Hotel as hotel manager and at the Holiday Inn Surfers Paradise as food and beverage manager. As recently as 2017, he was Director of Operations at Daydream Island Resort and Spa. That year, he was also a witness at the Australian Parliamentary Inquiry into how to remove barriers and stimulate tourism in northern Queensland. Current media reports state that he was most recently employed as the Body Corporate Manager at Q1 in Surfers Paradise. This was also the building where he has been living since separating from his partner and where he was arrested on January 8, 2020. In 2019, it seems he was appearing in Southport Court on the Gold Coast in relation to sexual assault charges, including rape, of women he met online. At present, I am unaware of the status of these charges and proceedings. However, after being arrested on January 8, 2020, he appeared at Southport Court at 9 a.m. the next morning. These were proceedings for extradition to New South Wales to face charges on the alleged 22 offences against 3 women from December 1979 to July 1997. He was unsuccessful in seeking bail and was extradited to New South Wales. That afternoon he appeared in Tweed Heads Court on the 22 charges. He did not apply for bail and has been remanded to appear in Newcastle Court on March 4, 2020. With that, I'll just remind you to contact police if you have any information that may help them in regards to the disappearances of Robin Hickey, Amanda Robinson, Annie Tomanak, Joy Hodgins, Leanne Goodall, Amanda Zolis, Gordana Katevsky, or any other person, or information about a green Torana that may have travelled between Newcastle and Queensland 40 years ago. Contact details are also in the description below. If you find these videos interesting and would like to see more of my videos, then please subscribe and click on the bell icon to be notified when I upload future videos. I'm David A. Elliott. Try to have a good one and see you around like a rissole.